Miss Flavour is a beautiful, wealthy lady with a deep secret. For her to remain wealthy and maintain her lifestyle of riches and luxury, she must drink a man's sperm as much as she can to be able to retain her wealth and beauty. Miss Flavour never liked the idea, but she had no choice. It was the price she was asked to pay by her altar for her to retain her wealth and remain relevant in the society. Because of this great demand, Miss Flavour resulted in giving every man that she likes a head, and never really sleeps with them. She could pay a man any amount for them to have a nice time, but she must give them head, and after that, if she likes the man, she could sleep with them. But for every head she gives, the man becomes impotent from that day on. Miss Flavour has been doing this successfully for many years without getting into any trouble, till she met one of her young employees, a handsome man who just joined one of her companies. His name is Koka. Koka is a bright young man who is about to get married. He and his wife-to-be, Ajara, have just concluded their DNA test, genotypes, sperm count, and fertility test, as it was part of what was needed by the church that will wed them, and everything came out perfect. But money was an issue, as only Ajara was working at the time and Koka had given all he had for the wedding, so it was big news when Koka landed a new, high-paying job. It was something that could help him and his wife-to-be have the kind of wedding they have always wanted. But Koka never knew he was given the job, not because he qualified for it, but because on the day of the interview, Miss Flavour walked into the office and saw him, and she instantly wanted him for herself. As Koka started working, his first week at work, his manager sent him to go deliver a file at Miss Flavour's house, and that was when it all started. Miss Flavour, who is a very powerful lady in the society, very rich and beautiful, lived alone. As Koka came in and sat in one of her living room, Miss Flavour came out dressed in a sexy and provoking outfit. She sits next to Koka, sipping a glass of wine, with a slight smile on her face. "Do you care for a glass?" she said, looking at Koka, who felt uncomfortable, and smiled. "No, madam, I am fine," Koka said, trying to keep his face off her half-naked body. "I employed you for one reason, and that is because I like you. You caught my attention." "Thank you, ma," Koka replied. Miss Flavour continued, "I asked them to send you to deliver this file. I don't really need it, I only needed to see you. I will go straight to the point. Spend one night with me, and I will sponsor your wedding, all expenses on me, and I will give you extra 20 million for you and your wife to settle down comfortably well." Koka's eyes widened. 20 million, he said, surprised and couldn't believe his ears. "Yes, 20 million, Miss Flavour resounded, "or is it too small?" "Okay, let's make it 50 million, Miss Flavour said as she smiled, sipping her glass of wine. Koka was dumbfounded for a while, then he said, "Madam, why will you give me this much money? You don't even know me." "Don't call me madam, call me Flavour," Miss Flavour said. "I will give you the money because I like you, and I would like you to spend just one night with me." "One night?" Koka resounded, looking worried. "But madam, or sorry, Flavour, you know I am about to get married, and if my wife finds out, the wedding is off, and I really love her. We practically grew up together and she knows everything about me. This will break her." Flavour looked at him and smiled. "Who will tell her? My mouth is sealed, and beside, you don't need to do anything, you don't even need to make love to me. So what are we going to be doing in that one night?" Miss Flavour smiled. "Just keep me company for one night and I will sponsor your wedding and give you 50 million that same night. It's as simple as that. Are you in or out?" Koka thought of a million things he could do with that money. He thought of how he would give his wife the best wedding of her life and still set her up in a business, and buy her a car also. But it's just one night and she may never find out. It's not like I will make love to her, he said to himself. Can I think about it? Koka said with his voice shaky, hoping not to lose out on the deal. Take your time, I am always here, Miss Flavour said. You can take your leave now, call me any time of the day, I will pick your calls, Miss Flavour said as she stood up and left the living room, leaving Koka there. As Koka's wedding day approached, more pressure was mounting on him. The list of all the items needed for the bride price was a lot. Ajara came from a big family and they all wanted a share of something from the bride price. Koka had borrowed over 6 million from his best friend, Dr. Jide, to complete the things needed for the bride price. But he still needs money for the hall, the musicians, the cake and most especially the ring. As the day drew near, and money was not coming from anywhere else, Koka's heart drew to Miss Flavour's offer of paying for the whole wedding and still getting paid 50 million. The cost for the wedding was over 20 million already, so he is likely to receive 60 to 70 million as Miss Flavour said. Just calculate how much you have spent so far, I will pay, and also give you 50 million as my support. One particular night, Koka couldn't sleep. It is 5 days to his wedding and everything was not ready. He had managed to pay for the cake, but the hall has not been fully paid, and it has to be paid before the day or else their deposit will be refunded on that day, and they will not be allowed to use the hall. The catering money was short, he has not yet paid the DJ and there was no money at all for the ring. Koka had promised Ajara, his fiancée, a particular gold ring. His friend Dr. Jide had begged him to drop the price of things to keep the wedding simple, but Koka kept on saying, wedding is for women and not for men, and we must make it special because we don't do it twice but once. He also added, I want to give my girl the best, because she truly deserves it. As he laid down on his bed that night, his mind kept on going to Miss Flavour's offer. All this stress can end tonight, if I accept this offer. By this time tomorrow, I will be able to afford anything, he said, as he laid down on his bed. Few minutes past 12 midnight, his fiancée Ajara called. As he picked the call, her voice was shaking. What is it, love? Koka said, as he heard the sound of her voice. Daddy couldn't get me the money to pay the balance of my wedding gown, like he promised, and I need to fit it tomorrow, and without the balance I will not be able to do so, and we have just 4 days left. I am so stressed right now, Ajara complained. Koka was silent for a while. He said under his breath, it's not like I will sleep with her, it's just to keep her company. Don't worry, love, I will send you the money tomorrow morning. His voice came strongly in assurance, as he made up his mind to take Miss Flavour's offer. You are a lifesaver, baby, I love you, Ajara said as she ended the call. Koka quickly called Miss Flavour. The phone rings for a while and she picks. Are you ready? Her voice came strongly from the other side of the phone, like she has been expecting his call. Yes, I am. Okay, see you soon. She drops the call. Koka looked at his phone. The reply he got was cold. He wondered what was going to happen since there was no sign of excitement coming from Miss Flavour's voice, but he brushed it all aside and got ready. As he got to Miss Flavour's house, they both sat in the living room, but there was no excitement on her face. It was more like a usual thing for her to bring men and use them and pay for their services, which makes sense, since she has no family and friends around her, and she keeps most of her life a secret. After a while of drinking, can we go to the room, she said. Wait. Koka said, you said we are not doing the do. I like you, Koka, Miss Flavour said with a slight smile on her face. I would like us to do the do, but if you don't want that, it's okay, but you will need to satisfy me the way I want. That's fine, Koka said, trying to be sure of their agreement. Miss Flavour smiled slightly as he pulled Koka into a room. They got down to playing and she gave him a head till he came and she swallowed the semen as usual. She immediately rushed out of the room into another dark room. After a while she came back. We are done here, she said. You can go now. Koka looked surprised. We are done? Yes, we are, Miss Flavour smiled. They both came out of the room. Koka was confused, a lot of questions written all over his face. Is that all? He asked, wondering if there was something else. No, my boy, we are done here. I have just transferred 70 million to your account. That will cover the cost of your wedding and also the 50 million I promised. Koka was excited when he got the alert. You can leave now, Miss Flavour said, looking like nothing happened. As Koka drove home, a mixture of excitement and fear filled his heart. He was happy about the money, but his mind kept on running toward the event of the night. Is Miss Flavour a spiritual person? Something was off about what happened that night that he couldn't shake off. I cover my thing with the blood of Jesus, Koka said quietly under his breath, but he knew it was too late for that. Few days later, Koka had the best wedding in town. To his surprise, Miss Flavour showed up at the wedding to support him and it was a great occasion. After the wedding, Koka resigned from work and started a bakery business for him and his wife. Since he got the job based on merit, that Miss Flavour liked him, it was a matter of time before the news would spread through the staffs on why he got the job and he didn't want that attention, so he resigned. After a while, Koka's business started growing. He opened many other branches of his bakery, and also supplied bread to hotels and big restaurants. His wife Ajara ran the admin section, while Koka managed the baking aspect, as he was very good at it. He never heard from Miss Flavour again, but he heard rumors of Miss Flavour hiring other male workers at all her companies, and he knew what that meant. But from the time Koka allowed Miss Flavour to give him head, his manhood could hardly stand, and whenever he managed to get it up, when he comes, it looks like water and not the real thing. At first, he made excuses to his wife that he was tired, but deep down in his heart, he was scared. Once in a while, his mind will run back to that night and what happened. 2 years passed and Ajara, Koka's wife, became unhappy with their condition. People were beginning to talk, their families were beginning to put pressure on her to give them a grandchild, and finally it was getting to her. One night as she sat up in the living room crying, Koka tried to console her, saying God's time is the best, but Ajara refused to listen. She said, we need to go back to the hospital to do another test, for peace to reign. Koka agreed. The next morning, Ajara and Koka went to their childhood friend's hospital, Dr. Jide. They were all schoolmates from secondary school and went to the same university. So the three of them practically grew up together. There used to be 4 of them, but Jide's girlfriend died of food poisoning in secondary school, and that was when Jide decided to become a medical doctor, to help as much people as he can, so he is not married and is not thinking of getting married anytime soon. Dr. Jide came out with the report. He looked confused. He said to Koka and his wife Ajara, I don't know what to say. From the test, Ajara here looks fine, but from Koka's test, it shows his tank is empty. There is no fuel in the tank. I have run the test severally and I can't explain it. Koka's eyes were filled with tears. How is that even possible? I have been donating sperm to this hospital for years, and 2 years ago, just before our wedding, you told me I am perfectly healthy. What is going on? Ajara started crying. So this means we are not going to have any children of our own, she said as tears drops from her eyes. I'm so sorry, Dr. Jide said, but really this doesn't make sense at all. From all the previous tests I have been running on you to what I'm seeing now, it doesn't make sense. It turned out that Koka has been donating sperm at Dr. Jide's hospital just to get some cash when things were tough for him. Miss Flavour has killed me, Koka said quietly. Ajara and Dr. Jide's eyes fastened on Koka. What are you talking about, babe? Ajara asked, looking confused. Koka took a deep breath and told them his super story. After he was done explaining to them, Ajara started crying bitterly. You should have told me, you should have said you didn't have enough, we would have managed. Then going this far for money, now see where it has landed us. Dr. Jide was shocked. He wouldn't speak for a while. He cleared his throat and said, this is serious. Miss Flavour is the owner of this hospital and she is the one that takes most of the sperms from the hospital. We all asked what she is doing with them, but nobody has any idea as she is very powerful in the society. The worst part is, she has been asking me out, that we need to spend some time at her home. Koka and Ajara fixed their gaze on Dr. Jide. Have you gone to her place? Koka asked, sitting up on his chair. No, but I was thinking about it, Dr. Jide said, trying to put the whole thing together. Now I see, it makes sense now, my friend. I have someone I need to take both of you to see, Dr. Jide said. She's a spiritual woman. You know I do all it takes to save lives, and when it fails, I resort to spiritual matters. I have been referring people who are close to me to this woman. I would like us to go see her and see what she can do for us. 2 days later, Ajara, Koka and their friend Dr. Jide was sitting in a room painted white. After a while an old woman came out and sat in front of them. My doctor, she said, extending greetings with Dr. Jide. How are you doing today? I am fine, Ma, Jide said. After they have all explained all that had happened to Koka, Mama Aya said, it is so sad, my son. That woman, Miss Flavour, is a very powerful witch doctor. She drinks those sperm to renew her wealth and her youth. She has an altar in the next room. Once the man comes, she will rush into the other room to make sure she pours a little of the sperm on the altar as her offering to her gods, to renew her wealth, while the ones she swallows renews her youth. And she needs to do this every month, as much as possible, so she don't run out of sacrifice. Once she does this to any man, the man will never have children again. I am so sorry it had to happen to you. Is there anything we can do to help him? Dr. Jide asked, looking worried. Yes, there is, Mama, I replied. Those words brought a little bit of excitement in the room. So there is hope for me, Koka said, looking at his wife Ajara in excitement. Yes, my children, there is hope, but it depends on how long it has been. As for you, my son, it might happen or it might not happen. It is a 50-50 thing now, because it has been about 2 years since you visited Miss Flavour. The longer it's been, the more impossible it becomes to reverse what has been done. Ajara and Koka bowed their head down in defeat. So what can we do to at least try? Dr. Jide asked, his voice steady and filled with belief. Mama Aya said, I will make some preparation on a person that Miss Flavour has set her eye on that she like. Then the person will go and allow her do what she normally does. What the person will release will be poisonous against her altar. When she is done and pours the thing on her altar, it will lose its power, and every spirit, or soul, that has been kept by the altar will be released. This can help your friend regain his manhood performance. But if it has been way too long, others might regain, but he might not. But the great part is, Miss Flavour will lose her powers, and disappear forever. Is that all? Koka asked. Yes, my son, that is all. But the difficult part is, where do we find a man that Miss Flavour has eye for? Koka and Ajara fixed their gaze on Dr. Jide. Dr. Jide noticed their eyes fixed on him. Why are you people looking at me? He said, acting like he didn't hear what Mama Aya said. You have to take one for this tea, my friend, Koka said, begging Dr. Jide. I should go and take a head. And put my life in danger. What if it fails? What if she finds out before we even start anything? The head you took, you see where it has headed you to. And you want me to go and take another head, and head to hell? No, I am not going to sacrifice my unborn children for a head. My life has to head somewhere. I am sorry, we need to look for someone else. Dr. Jide got up and left Koka and Ajara at Mama Aya's place and went home. Story ends. Will Dr. Jide agree to go through the process? Will it work or will it fail? Do you think Koka will ever regain his manhood after 2 years? Let's know your thought in the comment section. Watch out for part 2. Moral of this story. In life, nothing is free. Whatever you get that looks free, you might have paid in kind and not in cash. I remain Uncle Sam. Stay safe.